What does it mean to be a multi-chain solution? We understand that means use Ethereum and Solana, but what does it practically mean? And what's the benefit of being multi-chain?
So it's that you're thinking of I think these things are back-end technologies, and they're not the web client. It's not like a single thing with 3 billion users that all have the same virtual machine running locally. So these are back-end systems. And with backends, you can pick and choose whatever you need for whatever solution you want. And the thing that really glues all this stuff together is the cryptography. I can have cryptographic proofs that I own something in Ethereum. I can move that stuff over to Solana through a bridge and vice versa. All this can be automated through cryptography. And the users shouldn't really care at the end of the day where this information is synchronized or managed. And so you can kind of pick the system that you want for the use case that you care about. And that's kind of how I think of the multi-chain world, is that this stuff is complicated, just like a database. There's Pareto efficient trade-offs. And when you end up with Pareto efficient trade-offs, somebody's going to maximize one aspect of it, and somebody else is going to maximize another. So Solana picked a very clear, different Pareto efficient spot than Ethereum or Ethereum 2 or Bitcoin or any of the even competitors like Near, Avalanche, etc.
Which is speed and low transaction cost.
It is. So that is a side effect to the Pareto efficient spot we picked. We picked a single shard, so a single network that fully replicates information as fast as possible. So this again speaks to my 12 years at Qualcomm. How I look at this as uncensorable broadcast radio. How do I make sure that when you transmit a bit, it's propagated everywhere around the world as fast as possible, and that's guaranteed.
What is that going to look like if the adoption, right now you have how many parties and how many transactions occurring that are real transactions a day? Are we talking about billions, millions?
Like 40 million a day. But a lot of that is coming from like a central limit order book called Serum. So market makers, all they do is send cancel orders. Cancel this order.
Got it. So let's say if the network went 1,000x and all of a sudden, we're not 40 million, you're at 400 billion and then 4 trillion. What would the infrastructure need to be in terms of the storage, the bandwidth, et cetera? And, because that's eventually where this is heading, is that these things are going to hit scale. Would that look like, the footprint of Google? Would it look like the footprint of Facebook's data centers, or would it look like something different?
So 1,000x in humans?
1,000x in transactions, maybe to start, or...
So the thing is, like Twitter, right? Let's say we went from our current humans, which is maybe 1 million, monthly active humans, maybe 500,000, to Twitter's 200 million monthly active users. Yeah. We're going from, 30 transactions per second that are human to 5,000. That's not a big deal. But the read infrastructure to support structuring all this data, displaying to them, that's going to have the same footprint as Twitter. There's no magic there. Right. But the chain itself, like the piece that we're working on, that is scalable today to that level easily.
What happened on September 17th? I know you guys had a really rough day. There was a blackout for, 12 hours.
17 hours.
17 hours. Okay.
17-hour block.
Don't want to bring up any PTSD. I know this was just 2 weeks ago. You probably didn't sleep. But, this was this is what happens when you get popular. We all remember at the early days of Twitter, the fail whale. It was like, Twitter had an existential crisis here. Why did you go down? What did you learn from it? And how do you prevent that in the future?
So this was really not the first time we went down. It was kind of the first public one.
The first time people noticed because nobody knew who you were previously.
Yeah, exactly. Got it. So the thing is that what is decentralization? It's in my mind, I think of everything objectively. It's the cost to destroy every copy of the state. So if the network goes down, what it means is that it stopped confirming blocks, but the ledger and the state is still there. So there's multiple reasons why it could stop confirming blocks. Everywhere from every government in the world orders their telecoms to start dropping your data and your kind of host to major AWS went down. And for some reason, you had more than a third of the stake in AWS and you can no longer get to supermajority. A lot of networks are susceptible to this. Or in our case, there was a Radium launch for a product, an IDO. Kind of think of it like a Binance exchange launch or something like this. And there are already bots optimized to try to snipe orders. And they got pretty good at their optimizations, and they flooded the network with about 400,000 at peak requests to make a transaction, not actual transactions and blocks, but they basically flooded it until the network could not handle that load and started running out of memory.
Got it. But so that would be like a denial of service attack or a memory overflow kind of attack, which has been solved in the DNS space, through Dyn and Cloudflare and others. So I assume you figured out some way to, if, I don't know, I say a bad actor, but, if somebody does something outrageous, is it more resilient to the outrageous moments like this? Or edge cases?
So quality of service is not like computer science problem. It's just kind of a pain in the ass problem. And, we test for this. We flood the network all the time. There's just a couple corner cases. So when I git blame that code, it was me who wrote it 2 years ago, where I had a couple unbounded queues that were growing. So can only git blame myself. But this is part of why we still want to call it mainnet beta, is that we have extremely high confidence in safety, right? You only need one of these replicas to survive, one of these replicas to be valid. And the network is already as censorship is like decentralized from that physical perspective in my mind as Ethereum 2 or Ethereum. There isn't that significant difference between 1,000 replicas and 5,000 on Ethereum BTC. Like we're like a few more like, jumps behind, but we're basically pretty much there. But liveness and like resilience to arbitrary attack vectors while guaranteeing low cost, low fees to all the actual users. That's probably will take a couple iterations, and probably will take some iterations from now till we get to 100 million users, right? And then from 100 million users to 1 billion.
Don't you wish you could hire a ringer to help scale out your marketing team? I know you do. Well, with Marketer Hire, you can, and you can do it right now. Marketer Hire gives you access to expert freelancers on demand with no long-term contracts and no risk. You can hire experienced specialists across the most valuable marketing disciplines, from paid social and search to growth, SEO, content, and even get a fractional CMO. If you don't need a full-time one, maybe a fractional one would work great for you. Again, no long-term contracts. You can cancel at any time. And if it's your first time working with freelance talent, you'll start with a no-risk trial. Only hire what you need and stay on budget with hourly, part-time, or full-time arrangements. Every freelancer on Marketer Hire goes through a rigorous vetting process with industry experts. Freelancers from Marketer Hire have been hired at over 1,500 companies, including top brands like Netflix, Allbirds, and Lambda School. You're going to get $500 off your first hire at marketerhire.com/twist. Again, Marketer, marketerhire.com/twist, marketerhire.com/twist. Get that $500 right now, and you'll also get a free consultation on who to hire based on your needs and your goals. Again, $500 right now, marketerhire.com/twist.